Esse jogo bonito que eu quero ver. Esse jogo bonito que eu quero ver. Aide. Yay! Thanks and praise, dissidents. Welcome back to the Slick Dissident Shared Artistic Expression. A couple of friendly reminders. Check out slickdissident.com down below. Got the hoodies, the t-shirts, the merch, the tarot cards, and the Zippos. It's all there. Check me out down with the links below. Also, I'm including my brother Arick, some of his astrological services are on offer, so his link will be down below as well. Another little public notice is that most of what I am talking about is speculative claptrap. I don't expect anybody to find the resources that I draw upon elsewhere, so when it comes to checking Slick's sources, good friggin' luck. Yeah. I'm going into some uncharted territories where the authority upon which I will be drawing will be, trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. It's your favorite source. It's your favorite source. Just trust me, bro. I got this. All right. Might be a couple installations. I might have to take a little pause and split this one up. So I have been integrating the Endocrine system into the Enneagram. And ever since I did that, I feel like I've kind of hit a plateau that I'm satisfied with. And I felt the need to do some experimentation once I had discovered the Endocrine of the Enneagram system. And for people who haven't been on the long journey, you know, the essentially, this is Oscar Ichazo's Enneagram. This is not specifically Gurdjieff's Enneagram, although they don't necessarily disagree, as I have the 9 personality types with their vices and their remedial virtues pretty much mapped out 1 through 9. And so once I had a firm grasp for the Enneagram, I took it on a test run through ancient mythology and stories. And I discovered it has high fidelity to Plato's Symposium, which I highly recommend to everybody. Plato's Symposium was throttled through Theagenes of Megara. Theagenes of Megara wanted to make Plato's Symposium the bedrock, the touchstone of all culture. And the Symposium was Friedrich Nietzsche's favorite pet project through his academic career. So once I went into the Enneagram of the Symposium, I discovered, fascinatingly enough, that there is a correspondent muse sitting over the shoulder of each speaker in the Symposium. And, in fact, the missing muses were in the empty seats of the Symposium, which was very informative. And actually, the negative space is part of how the glove fits the hand so well, is finding the muses in these negative spaces, the 6th and the 9th muse. So just to kind of move forward from there, I then discovered that work has already been done playing through the Iliad playing through the Odyssey of Odysseus's hero's journey. But the Odyssey reads through the Enneagram in reverse order. I found that very fascinating. And I have the strong theory that the Iliad, the prequel to the Odyssey, I think it goes in forward order, 1 through 9. So I just wanted to bring everybody along to find how I discovered the 9 muses in the seating order of the Symposium and have infused it onto Oscar Ichazo's 9 personality types But it was my buddy Arick who discovered the correspondence of the 9 muses to the essentially 9 primary endocrine chemicals. Um, and these are all surface level cliff notes of the adventure so far. So I just wanted to put the map into context and how it came to be in this position. In the previous works, all of the tarot cards were very simply in order. Cards number 10 and card number 19 were in the number 1 spot. Card number 2, card number 20 were in the 2 spot. Card number 3 and card number 12 were in the 3 spot. Card number 13 and card number 4 in the 4 spot. 14 and 5, 15 and 6, 16 and 7, 17 and 8, and then cards number 19 and 20 up here. And the remaining 3 cards were used to markate the dividing lines between the 2, 3, and 4 is the feeling trine of the Enneagram. So I put the universe card to divide the feeling groups from the 5, 6, and 7, which is the thinking groups of the Enneagram. And then I had the justice card or the adjustment card holding the dividing line, this line right here in the old arrangement, dividing your thoughts of the 5, 6, 7s from the doing or the body, the 8s, 9s, and the 1s. Now, the 8, 9s, and 1s as signifying the body in the Enneagram, I just want to convey some of my perception of this is I see the body groups, the 1, 8, and 9, as embodying or enacting action external from your internal domain. So the feeling and the thinking goes on in your internal landscape. The 1s, 9s, and 8s actually occur external of yourself. And when I did my Enneagram test, I realized I have real strong tendency to be an act first before I feel or think. I tend to be, you could say impulsive. You could also say that I'm reflexive, as an athlete. I'm very reflexive. I'm very action oriented. So that's kind of part of my journey, was realizing that I'm unique because I act primarily, and then I feel and think reflectively. So just wanted to kind of bring people up to speed on how the old system came into positioning, because I have gone completely hyperbolic and we are way off the radar at this point. I'm also keeping all of that progress on the record, on the board here. I've started to experiment with the constellations of the IAU in their rank by size. And so I've actually put the constellations by size in 1 through 9, but I didn't go in direct order. The first 9 I did not use. I actually used the prime number constellations. So the first prime number is 2. And so the second constellation by size is Virgo. And so now I have Virgo is holding the number 1 position because she is the second largest constellation by size. And then I have Ursa Major is the 3rd largest constellation by size. So the 3rd largest is in the 2 spot because number 3 is the second prime. And so that is some of the reasoning and the logos of why I have different constellations in their order by size on the Enneagram at this point. And something I discovered a long time ago was that the word order has a great many definitions, one of which is different types of columns that are signifying the different purpose behind different buildings in Greco-Roman architecture. So without going too far into that, I just want to refer everybody to some of our weaves this last week with Kyle and PK and Chance. We went hard on the Green Man and the acanthus on the top of the pillars in Greco-Roman architecture. And so, and how acanthus is correspondent to the mythology of the Green Man. And it was in that episode that we discovered that the word Enneagram is an anagram for a green man. Yeah, really powerful. And that kind of brought my mind to realize some of these images of the green man with a bunch of leaves and foliage around his head very much resembles my entire project right here, um, which is kind of fun. But it also, I just want to point out, I've always considered how this kind of looks like the Monopoly board, right? The Monopoly board is also somewhat indicated by the project that I have here. So, yeah, those are some of the cliff notes from my time off and our discoveries with the Green Man, which that's kind of the nature of the Green Man is fecundity and abundance. In that it is in there's a bit of uh, a green man metaphor in all things, as some could say that if money is what makes the world go round, then money is the generative principle. It is green, cash is king. Yeah, there's a lot of omnipresence to this green man signifier. Same thing happens around Mercury. Mercury is the planetary affiliation to the number 5 personality type with the shadow of greed or medial virtue of temperance. The number 5 has avarice in their shadow. And sure enough, this is Mercury's planetary association in the Enneagram. And ever since Mercury is associated with finance, it's just replete in all things. The mercurial metaphor is just, it's almost a din of noise that is hard to see past. The Mercury of the messaging in all things, that we live in a completely symbolic realm, you know. Signifiers. We're actually looking at post-it notes. The whole world is just signifiers. And the message of that is the replete nature of the Enneagram and the Green Man and the fecundity of abundance of meaning in the world. But yeah, Mercury really has overshadowed the the functionality of the other divine energies. And that is actually true to Agamemnon's speech in the symposium. Agamemnon says that love is constantly reborn and renewed, and is always on the fresh, tender surfaces. That love prefers what is youthful and young, and I think of this as the language. We're constantly making up new words, new language to describe the realm. Which makes another layer of post-it notes, and the kids in the next generation are come up with whole other words we never heard before. Uh, yeah, painting the realm with technical jargon, uh, very correspondent to Agathon's speech on love. And Agathon's name means good, goods and services, right there. All right. I'm going to dig through just a few developments in my lensing of the Enneagram system. I'm not going to justify why I have all the cards in the places I have them, other than to say I'm basically sticking to the neighborhood of the constellation from the IAU. Like this is Virgo, and so I've placed the cards that associate the most with Virgo in the number 1 position. And what is fascinating, what has rewarded me for my efforts, is the fact that I know that this is the muse of Polyhymnia. She is the muse of rhetoric. She's practicing reticence. She often has a finger pursed to her lips as she knows what not to say. That's the wisdom of Athena. She also has sharp elbows because she knows how to move a crowd, if you know what I mean. Well, fascinating enough, right off of Virgo's elbow, over her shoulder, is the equinox location, where the sun's getting low, big fella, and the night starts to vanquish the day, and the days get long, and it's time to go to sleep, and so the night starts to lengthen. Well, the chemical endocrine chemical that is correspondent to polyhymnia is melatonin. And so a really good rhetorician knows how to get the open yawn of a nodding judge. They know how to talk in circles, and so you just, oh yeah, they must know what they're talking about. Sure, sure, pal, whatever. You use really big words like superchiasmatic nuclei, and you're like, oh yeah, this guy's got it. He's got it figured out. I'm gonna go to sleep. It's time to go into the fall. So the circadian rhythm and the melatonin of polyhymnia corresponding to Virgo is deeply gratifying to me. I can actually see the personality types of the muses fitting even better into the constellations by size in their prime ranking from the IAU. So the next one is oxytocin, is the next chemical. And this is called the love drug, but it's also the hate drug. The things that, if they're not in the click, there's also an oxytocin response that is repulsive. And this is so profound because the third constellation by size is Ursa Majora. Ursa Majora is the big bear. And we even use these metaphors of the mother bear. The mother bear is quick to other, those who are not going to protect the children. So oxytocin corresponding to Ursa Major is so next level. And then Hercules, to be in the achiever with the shadow of deceit, it's impeccable. It's so flawless. Then I have Pegasus is in the fourth individual with the shadow of envy position. So I have Pegasus here as it is the seventh constellation by size. 7 is the fourth prime. And Ophiuchus corresponding to Melpomene, the muse of tragedy, the endocrine system chemical of cortisol. This is the Ophiuchus is the scapegoat, and Melpomene is always sulking, keeping to herself. Yeah, very powerful to find Ophiuchus as the 11th constellation correspondent to the muse in number 5 spot, who is so self-absorbed in her own way. Bootes corresponding to estrogen, that is really wild. That is truly very wild. As this was the place where I had to kind of make an executive decision to put estrogen in with the number 6 and with Bootes, and to let testosterone take the number 7 position of the enthusiast. 6 is a loyalist with a shadow of fear. Bootes is the great void. So there is high accomplishment, but deep shadow and doubt in this number 6 spot. So finding Bootes to be the 13th constellation by size, 13 is the 6th prime, it's so gratifying. Oh, it's so next level. Then testosterone for the number 7 enthusiast with the shadow of glutton, remedial virtue of abstinence, putting testosterone in here and finding out that Taurus is in fact number 17 on the IAU. 17 is the 7th prime. It's really fun. Andromeda is the 19th constellation by size, and Andromeda is 19 is the 8th prime number. Adrenaline is correspondent to the muse of dance, Terpsichore. Adrenaline, Andromeda, it's almost the same word. All right. And then 23rd constellation by size is Serpens, but I think it's Serpens Caput and Serpens Coda. It's the only way you'll get that constellation to justify its rank. 23 is the 9th prime. And sure enough, the muse, the 9th muse of Plato, who was the rounding out the story, his muse would be Urania, the muse of geometry. And sure enough, Serpens Caput being correspondent to Urania is really something. It's really something. But I just want to mention that Urania is the balanced peacekeeper, remedial virtue of diligence, that's a shadow of sloth, indolence, I might have said. But serotonin is a perfect fit. When you read the description of what serotonin does, it's the peacekeeper, the moderator, the balanced one. The serotonin is a great fit right there. All right, so that's a quick review of a vast amount of trust me, brah. Trust me, brah. That's a whole lot of trust me, brah. I'm going to take a break, and then we're going to get into some recent events, recent news. Then I'm going to do a couple breakdowns on a couple films. Whole lot of promulgation protocols are in the air right now. This is the teachable moment. There's been a lot of holding our breath and wait for the ritual that's coming on. Inauguration Day is January 22nd. It's the peak of the Carinid meteor showers, where the baby homunculus inside of the mama homunculus, inside of the Eta Carinid keel of the ship, comes raining down on humanity on Inauguration Day. Is the peak of this display of the media showers. And the glyph for Argo, the glyph for Carina, is 3 lines descending out of the keel of this ship, and that is really profound because the umbilical cross section is very correspondent to the ships that are depicted in Marvel Avengers, Wakanda. They have these spaceships that have 3 circles, much like an African mask, or much like the cross section of the umbilical cord. All right, I'll be right back, y'all. Much love and respect. All right, before I get into the news, I want to share a fun theory that I've been kind of percolating in the back of my mind all along. I've done work on the tarot cards and the constitutional amendments in the past. And it was, it's always good to dust off your constitutional amendments to stay fluent in the paperwork that people venerate so deeply, rightly so. The Constitution really is something powerful, but it's got a 2-2 in its name. It counts 2-2 showing. 22 cards in the major arcana plus the Fool makes for 23. 23 and me. The 23rd letter in the Greek alphabet is Phi, P-H-I, personal health information. Lifted up on a Tau cross, up here on the number 9. So the counts 2-2 shown is very important. And I just want to do a quick read on the articles. This is an ancient, I actually hold on to the very old documents. This is a very old version. Before the amendments became bills, they were still articles. So some of the wording on this has been completely reappropriated over time. So I'm just going to read through, and I'm just going to remind people: Polyhymnia, the muse of speech; Clio, the muse of history; Euterpe, the muse of music and harmony. Number 4 is Thalia, the muse of comedy. Melpomene is the muse of tragedy. Erato is the muse of eroticism. And Calliope is the muse of all the epics. She's kind of the eldest sister. She's the most beautiful and the most subtle and most crafty. She's very enigmatic, as is the number 7. And then we have Terpsichore, the muse of dance, and Urania, the muse of geometry and astrology, is in the number 9 spot. So have their names written here on the board. You might have to zoom in to see close. But I just want to rip through the constitutional amendments to kind of put the touchstone of culture that Diogenes of Megara, Friedrich Nietzsche, great minds have made the symposium into the bedrock and the foundation of culture at large. And I just want to superimpose this touchstone onto the Constitution. It blows my mind as I read Plato's Republic, the claim that the founding fathers were basing their governmental system on the Republic and on the Greeks. I find that really, I read much nefariousness in that claim, in that it is as though they put a stone in shape that was raw, square, blocked off, with the promise to whittle it down slowly over time to become more and more like Plato's Republic. That's what I think is really going on. They put a raw stone in place with the promise to chisel it away and to make an idol. So first muse is Polyhymnia, the muse of speech, the rhetorician muse. And what do we all think of when we think of the First Amendment, right? The freedom to assemble, the freedom of association, which is probably the most magical right that you have. It is the most magical right you have, is the freedom of association. And it's something that I deal with a great amount, dancing between the objective and the subjective, as healthily as I can. The freedom of association is so powerful that it's in the First Amendment. But also the restrictions on the powers of Congress is the old way they used to phrase in the articles before it became the Bill of Rights. Um, uh, yeah, but no establishment of religion or prohibiting of the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or the press. It's so potent. It is so potent. Uh, Essentially, Virgo is the season of the wine press. This is the season of the harvest. So yeah, having the freedom of the press is very powerful. There is a printing press constellation over near Monosaurus. But yeah, polymnia, freedom of speech, it's pretty spot on. Now, Cleo, the muse of history, and the Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. The third constellation by size is Ursa Major. So yeah, the right to bear arms, Second Amendment, and to somebody steps out of line, you make them history. You make them history. The right to bear arms. The billeting of soldiers, that's such an old term, in this number 3 spot. That's really fascinating. When Chance and I did a breakdown on Doctor Strange, we walked through the characters of the Rotunda, and I corresponded them very powerfully to the constitutional amendments. And personality number 3 was Professor Xavier, was in the number 3 spot. As the third amendment, third article, is the right for soldiers not to come into your household, even during war times. They cannot just come knocking on your door and raid your supplies, because it's very likely that they might be derelict soldiers on the run. This is Caput Garrett Lupinum, is also correspondent to this. Let him wear the wolf's head. But I just wanted to mention Professor Xavier was in the number 3 for the Third Amendment and the freedom from soldiers barging into your household. Number 4 is seizures, searches, and warrants. Just very interesting. This is the comedy. This was Aristophanes in the Symposium. Very interesting, the seizure, because Aristophanes actually caught a case of the hiccups. He was seizing in the Symposium. Yeah, fascinating little nods, winks, and nudges. Number 5 in the constitutional amendments is criminal procedures and condemnation of property. This is no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in case arising in the land or naval forces or in the militias when the actual service in time of war or public danger. So yeah, this not being held to answer for capital or otherwise infamous crimes. There's something very powerful about how Melpomene keeps to herself. And your Fifth Amendment is the freedom to keep to yourself, to stay in the private. Something real powerful going on around that. Sixth Amendment. Oh, by the way, when you're dealing with a Leo on the street, you don't have to go past number 5. You really should memorize 1 through 5, and you pretty much should never have to, if you haven't committed a crime, you can withhold all breaking in. The first word a cop says to you is breaking and entering. And if you hold to your 1 through 5 and you don't let them get past your Fifth Amendment, and you remain polymnia, then you're good to go. You're GTG. All right. However, number 6 is mode of trial or criminal procedure. Yes, all criminal procedures shall, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right of a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and districts wherein the crime shall have been committed. Yeah, very fascinating that this is the Boötes void. It's kind of yeah, it's kind of telling that the number 6 is very so sexy, and this is where you uh, have the mode of your trial in criminal procedures. Number 7, Article 7 is trial by jury. That's exactly what happens to Socrates, the number 7 seat in the symposium. He gets put on trial by a jury. And Alcibiades is the one who tells him, I'll put you on trial, and everybody here is going to be my witness. Article 8 is bails, fines, and punishments. Bails, fines, and punishments, correspondent to adrenaline, terpsichore, Andromeda. Bails, fines, and punishments. In the Doctor Strange breakdown, this was the Scarlet Witch. This was the Scarlet Witch. And Andromeda is enchained. In fact, Andromeda is encoded into the witch trials. When I see paintings of the witch trials, they're actually doing subtle images in the paintings of the witch trials that are connect the dots overlays of the stars. There are astronomical maps in the depictions of the Salem witch trials, and Andromeda is always in the position of the tortured witch. And sure enough, Scarlet Witch was number 8th Amendment when we did the breakdown of Doctor Strange. And then number 9 is the unenumerated powers. Serpents cut in half. Serpent's coda and serpent's caput appear in the number 23 in me. Let me just read number 9. Certain rights not denied to the people. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. There's something really potent going on with that fact. I just want to say it one more time. Of certain rights shall not be construed. Certain, serotonin, serpent, certain. All the time I have the sense that I'm seeing that there's plus ultra. There's so plus ultra. But finding that the enumerated powers are correspondent to the number 9, yeah, these guys were totally dialed on to some very ancient truths about order. The word order means the 9 heavenly realms. And whoever put that constitution in place was quite dialed into the nature of order. Yeah, many, many mysteries. Someday I'll have more to fill in the many, many blanks. But I just wanted to do a quick run through on the Constitution as it relates to the Enneagram as well. All right, then I'm going to do some headline breakdowns, and we're going to move into a couple of the films. Over the holidays, I was watching more cinema than I've ever watched in a year. I watched so much stuff. I just want to process and share some of what I've discovered. So recently, our buddy Walter Bosley, big love Walter Bosley, he was sharing third hand somebody else's claim. So trust me, brah, on this. Walter Bosley states that he believes that Aleister Crowley was tracing the travel history of Houdini, of Harry Houdini. Harry Houdini has always been the hangman card. And Walter Bosley just said this in passing, and I picked up on it because I think it's highly significant that there is a belief out there that Crowley was actually walking in the footsteps of Harry Houdini. There's a fascinating story describing how sympathetic magics work that is attributed to Crowley, but I bet this story is way older than him. And probably, yeah, it's a bit of an urban myth, but it gets attributed to him. And that is that he was walking down a public thoroughfare in the middle of day in the city with a cohort who was a non-believer in magic. and they're walking on the city streets, and his cohort says to him, "Show me something right now. No preparation, no warning, just do some magic, make me a believer." Crowley looks around, and he takes the hat off of his buddy and puts the hat on himself, and there's a character walking just 5 steps ahead of them who's wearing a very similar hat to what Crowley is wearing. And so Crowley changes his gait recognition to sympathize with this character in front of them who has no idea there's a spell being woven into his destiny. And so Crowley's imitating his exact stride, and he's stepping in the footprints where this other fella is only 5 steps ahead of him. And then Crowley stumbles and falls to one knee. And in the next step, the fella ahead of them stumbles and falls to one knee, exactly like Crowley. Takes his hat off and gives it back to his buddy. Same path I take magics. Sympathetic magics. The same path I take magics. Turns out, Crowley was following in the footsteps of Harry Houdini. That is really something. That is really something. All right. May have been following in the footsteps of Houdini. It's a fascinating claim from the www.trustmebroad.com. All right. I want to talk about Mangione. Mangina is powerfully correspondent to the death card. You know, his name is Luigi. He is the Green Man. Luigi is the Green Man. Mangione, he even has in his, people who are looking him up and digging up all the crazy information, he has an X-ray of his spinal column. Look at that spinal column on that death card. It's just totally Mangione, y'all. But yeah, he had some sort of back surgery, and so we can see through him. He's transparent, and we are looking at we're testing his spine, right? So Mangione is also a bit of a green man. Some of his imagery, he's backpacking through nature. He's out in the woods. He's fit as a fiddle, but he even has a backpack in those pictures, in those images. I just want to talk about this backpack, right? This has been the Ghostbusters card all along. He's wiggling a ghost gun. He's got a proton pack, right, as the backpack. But I just want to put this into the context of the infantilization spell of humanity. That when we see somebody wearing a backpack like Ashley Babbitt during that trauma ritual, it makes us feel young to see an adult wearing a backpack. That is part of the sympathetic magics of it. That's why Crowley needed a hat that looked like the other fella's hat. There's some self-hypnosis going on. The backpack is an infantilization spell, but it's also bringing your baggage, your childhood memories, your programming from the Prussian school system into your subconscious. Furthermore, it is a signifier of homelessness. The snail is, escargot in French, is a kind of a double entendre pun on unemployed. The word escargot means unemployed. And so snails have their entire world on their back. But it's also an infantilization spell. When you see these ceremonies, always with backpacks, and that is to infantilize your associative principle. It's speaking to your erotes, your inner children. So with that in mind, I just want to bring Win Linyan onto the radar. It turns out she's one of the vanguards of the forthcoming Erd-Bay Ooflay outbreak. The word Erd-Bay Ooflay is a schizophrenic anagram for Belphegor. The symbol for Belphegor is extracted from the Voynich manuscripts. It's an upside-down pi symbol, or it looks also like a bird flying. So the word bird flu, Belphegor, and the Voynich symbol of Belphegor is being launched onto the masses, and it was embedded into some of the components around the Wizard of Oz that I'm going to get to in a minute. But Win Linian was actually a crisis actor in the Boston bombings. So right there, a great many people are thinking of backpacks right away. But she was a crisis actor. I think she had some experience regarding green screens. Um, but now she's coming out and she's going to be the spokesperson for the Erdbe Oodflay. Folks, if you watch Shogun, it is fascinating to no end that I think Win Linian is correspondent to Mariko, the female love interest of Shogun. And what's fascinating about that is that Mariko, she ends up dying from a bomb. She gets blown up from a bomb that explodes from behind her. And there's a green screen scene where they show Mariko getting blown up. But that's not all. It's not. There's so many more threads, more than I'm even able to grasp and convey. So have at this. But Mariko was a political exile. That was part of her depth of character. And same thing with Win Linian. She also is a political exile. Um, Furthermore, Ayn Rand was a political exile. Um, I'm starting to see that these political exiles are put into the backstory of characters in cinema, and it hits a different chord for everybody. You know, in some ways, I feel like a political exile just because I'm politically agnostic, so it kind of harmonizes to my own associative principle. But also, um, Alphaba from Wicked. In her defining moment, when she's about to break through the glass ceiling, they're actually publicly announcing and humiliating her on the loudspeaker by announcing her name and putting her into exile. She becomes, in her defining moment, she becomes a political exile and breaks through the glass ceiling. Kind of antipode to Mariko getting blown in to a storage room. But yeah, I just want to put Win Linian on people's radar as deeply correspondent to political exiles for the sake of, sympathizing with the common people. But that depth of her biography, it also has a strong correspondence to Ayn Rand. And Ayn Rand was up here she's card number 17. And the star card is correspondent to Texas. But this has been Ayn Rand's card for many reasons, but Atlas is shrugging. You can see if this is Atlas, the ball that was on his shoulders is getting rolled off one arm like a Harlem Globetrotter. All right. Win Linian. Deborah Burks. Deborah Burks is coming back on the map. And I heard a fella, he said, as soon as I saw her name, I wanted to punch the computer. He was like totally lit up by the fact that she's being circulated again. I want everybody to know. The Latin word for scarf is cachecol. 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 It's got little derivatives if you're in Portuguese or Spanish, little spins and derivations. Cachecol conditioning. We are looking at cachecol conditioning. That's what that scarf is all about. We've been classically conditioned to have a vitriolic oxytocin response as soon as we see the cachecol. This is cachecol conditioning. And when I heard homie say I wanted to punch my own computer, I was like, whoa, they got you MK Ultra to the max, bro. I want to say this. The word trigger has only been a verb since 1940. And that's only because they let the film Manchurian Candidate, I spell candidate with the K, MK Manchurian Candidate came out and disclosed onto humanity that actually we are programmable. Program means written before. It was written before. And so we are addicted to theater. And we are expected to just execute robotically to the program, what is written before. But trigger became publicly acknowledged as a verb in the 40s. That is such a misdirect. For one, they suppressed Manchurian Candidate for a great many years before it became a film. And very few people had read the book, but they were seeding consciousness with the suggestion of how programmable we are. But I just want to say, MK Ultra trigger programming goes all the way back to the Saints. Every saint was tortured, tormented, martyred, and made an example of, so that the frenzies, the manias of the fanaticism that it comes out of the effects of their biography is a bunch of wannabes who want to be martyred, who want to be tortured and tormented and suffer to this standard of self-martyrdom. And that is the original trigger programming. And that only in the 40s did we get a word for what that is. I want to point out that science, saints, and seance, and even SCN, the suprachiasmatic nuclei, SCN, these words are tapping to the earth speak. They are tapping to the earth speak, the commonality of the science of the saints and the science of triggering our sympathetic resonance to these horror stories, for the mania of witness. And the Greek word for witness is martyr. There is a mania for martyrdom. And right now, the most common, I mean, it's everywhere, it's in everything. But right now, the most common is people jump on their phones because they want to be the witness who catches one of these drones. So they become the witness, they become the martyr, they are adding to history. They're getting their 15 minutes of fame. And it's all good. It's all good. I just wanted to put it in the context of trigger and the saints and the ancient science of seance, of reading the signs. All right, just trying to make some sense. New nun. There's a new nun. A new Mother Teresa has been launched onto the masses. What was it? 5 days. 5 days into the new year, the church opened a new door for the first 5 days, and I think it's on the 6th day they've dropped a new nun on the scene. Her name is Simone. Oh, I forget her last name. Borgiello, something like that. I'll bring up her image. I'm going to correspond her to the Empress card that was in the number 3 position, card number 3, the Empress, because this is Maud Gonne. This Empress always wears the veil, very much looking like a nun. But the Empress card was in the number 3 position, and now I've put the Death card in the number 3 position. And what is the glyph on this card is none. The glyph is none. And so there's something really fascinating regarding this new, she's actually a newly appointed bishop. I think they would call her a bishopess. I might be wrong. I might be slightly wrong. I'm going to study up on the ecclesiastic echelons to get more accurate. But I believe she came into place on the 6th. And this is just pinging very heavily on the number 6 Buotes, loyalist with a shadow of doubt or anxiety, as she came in the day after they opened the last door. And the glyph on this card, of the Empress card, is the glyph for the word door. And so after the 5th door was open, they put her out on the 6th day. So I just want to put this new nun, this new Mother Teresa on the radar. And anybody who has penetrated to the depths of what Mother Teresa was really up to, this doesn't come across as good news. Definitely does not come across as good news. All right. All right, I'm going to just kind of flash some fascinating images around these fires in Cali. San Francisco. San Francisco is the 37-degree parallel in the territories map. It cuts, it's essentially the Mason-Dixon line, 37. 3 and 7 are very important numbers in the Enneagram. It's the 12th prime number is 37. 37 is essentially the Mason-Dixon line. Depending on what state you're in or what time in history you research the Mason-Dixon line, it moved almost 4 to 5 degrees as it cuts east to west. But 37 is the number I'm sticking with. And the San Francisco Bridge is on the 37th parallel. This 37th parallel is the exact parallel that all of the Afghani ganja comes from. all Afghani ganja is harvested from the 37th parallel so that it will have the exact same light cycle as Afghanistan. So also on the other side of the map, it cuts through the Strait of Gibraltar, the Strait of the Hebrew Altar, and it goes right into a Temple of Hades in Turkey. 37th degree parallel is kind of one of my pet numbers. I'm quite familiar with its relationship across the map. It also goes through Fort Knox, 37 degree parallel. It's very crucial. LA is quite a few degrees south of that. I think it's 34th parallel, maybe, I think. In the LA fires,
the scooter looters
all,
were totally predictably programmed in Mandalorian.
No, let's stay chronological. First, the news anchors who came on to broadcast the reports back on the fire were wearing safety gear. They were dressed all in yellow, just like April O'Neil. Very fascinating. April O'Neil has been very correspondent to the Fool card and the Chariot card in my read, because she's driving around in the News 6 van, but she's also the camera. The chimera of the camera is the very nature of this card, and so yeah, I see her as signifying some of the Fool card, but more so this Chariot card, which has a lot to do with Joan of Arc. As Joan of Arc was, she actually kept her chastity belt, even through torture, she kept her chastity belt intact. So she's kind of the armored heroine. And sure enough, this safety garb that the female reporters, are on site reporting the fires in Los Angeles, their uniform in their April O'Neil garb. Also, the one, she's actually standing next to a blood splatter on the wall, so there's some Dexter drawing out your detective drive from the blood spatter on the wall. But yeah, they're totally looking a great amount like April O'Neil in my read. Even the first reporter I saw, she looked like the original April O'Neil, who had dark hair. And the original April O'Neil was dressed up in these colors, but then they put her in a uniform of yellow and gave her red hair. So then, sure enough, it was the next report I saw was another female reporter on the line of fire in LA reporting back underneath a lamppost that exploded right on time. So yeah, I'm seeing a great amount of the ninjas in an incel being triggered by the burning of Sodom. Yeah, that's going on. So I wanted to kind of bring forward some of the ninja subconscious programming from our culture, from all these things. A great amount of it came out of LA, and they will not miss the opportunity to cash in on the trigger response. They will not miss the chance to cash in on this trigger response. It is vast and profound. Also, this is the Ecto 1 is the Ghostbusters car that they would drive around on. So yeah, and this is Fred Flintstone as well, because there's even little feet at the bottom of the card, just like Fred Flintstone's feet poking out of the bottom. So yeah, the archetypal imagery, I think it's actually supplemental. I'm not going to say it's natural. I think we've been supplemented into the archetypal programming. I'm hesitant to say that our archetypal relationship is naturally occurring. I think it's actually instilled onto us mechanistically. Yeah, I just want to say that. I think that the archetypes are they are a natural habit of our sympathetic propensities, but they've been reinforced by a non-natural agenda. Say it that way. Okay. New Orleans and the new aliens. New aliens of New Orleans. New Orleans has always been number 15 devil card. It's in Capricorn. The other card correspondent to Mississippi more so is the High Priestess card. The Devil card and the High Priestess are both Capricorn oriented. High Priestess is a little more Mississippi. She's, the water. Um, but the Devil card is totally New Orleans. It is totally New Orleans. And that is where Cthulhu was summoned, and also Aleister Crowley summoned Cthulhu in a ceremony on October 31st, the same night that Houdini died. Crowley was doing a ritual to summon Cthulhu. And then 19 years later, H. Paulo Lovecraft writes the story of Cthulhu being summoned in a verbatim repeat ceremony of what Aleister Crowley did in New Orleans when he called forth the spirit of Cthulhu. And the spirit of Cthulhu is just the promise for the collapse of the central banking. They call it the eldritch ones, the old rights, the monsters of the eldritch. Well, the name of the central banking plan is the Eldritch Plan. Yeah, I could go on and on. But New Orleans is the new aliens. There's a great need to buzz this trauma location. I wonder how many years it's been since Katrina. But yeah, they're making sure that the New Orleans Devil card is very much pinging on our fight or flight, freeze or fuck response systems, because the Super Bowl is coming up. It's going to take place in New Aliens. All right. Just wanted to share that, and then I'm going to bust into Wicked, the film Wicked. I just think that this is really important that I share this forward because I learned something. I unlearned something I thought I knew and discovered something that I should know if I'm going to talk about these cards at all. I was when I watched the film Wicked, I was a little thrown. How is it that I'm finding the tarot cards to be so central? These tarot cards, not just any tarot cards, these tarot cards are extremely central to the iconography of so much of our culture. Because I'll bring in a quick graphic. I did a breakdown on the Avatar, the Last Airbender Avatar series, and sure enough, every single character is a living embodiment of these tarot cards. It's a complete system, all the way down to the cabbage vendor is the adjustment card. I mean the scope of detail. It just blows my mind because it constantly is drawing me out to find more and more confirmation of this system being subliminally instilled onto the masses and not told to them that these images have an anxiety of influence going back to somebody before them. I highly recommend people research anxiety of influence. It's something that I'm dealing with as I went to watch Wicked, and I'm looking at Galinda, whose name is an anagram for a legend, and I'm looking at Alphaba, whose name is an anagram for a fable, and I'm looking at a legend and a fable, and I'm seeing that they are completely reanimating the tarot cards again, and I was gonna take it and run with it until I had to check myself, and I realized, wait a second, the anxiety of influence compels me to be more honest with what I'm seeing. It turns out the tarot cards came after The Wizard of Oz. The tarot cards are from 1947. What was it? No, it's actually 42, somewhere between 42 and 47. The tarot cards came out, I think 42. But The Wizard of Oz and the imagery that these tarot cards are drawing on, they come from a much earlier time. It's pretty much 1919. Right at the end of the Second World War, when The Wizard of Oz really became a thing, and it was a traveling show. But the books were prolific. There's so much mythology that those books have to offer that we only skim the surface with what people see in film. There's so much more depth to The Wizard of Oz. And it was me checking my own presumption to realize, wait a second, these cards are actually based on Wizard of Oz imagery. And that is really profound. So yeah, there's some Frank Baum uh, digs that could go for days and days and days. But I'm just going to stay to the surface. I'm going to stick to the surface. And I want to share how Alphaba and Galinda are, essentially two sides of the same coin. Very cliche, extremely cliche. But I just want to give some more depth analysis. The racial triggering of having a black woman play the witch, that was race baiting 101. I'm not even going to get into what all that is about. It's so elementary, but I should acknowledge it at least, that wick means woven, much like this weaving pattern on this death card. It's much like a wick. But the techne of the dyers is the system in Plato's Republic with which they use language and linguistic associations to associate purity with what is purple. And royal family bloodlines are all the only people who have access to purple. They have the entitlements. And the techne of the dyers is used in language such that humanity has fidelity to the state because they have your placenta on held hostage. And if you act right, then you can get your retirements. Tire is the murex purple of the garment of the Christ. Your retirements will come to you if you act right. But also that purple of the murex is the highest priced dye that there is. For many years in some cultures, you'd get killed if you wore purple and you weren't authorized. Only royalty could wear the purple. And it's also, it kind of goes back to the Phoenicians, right? The Phoenicians used the murex to hail each other from a far distance, much like Karl Murex. Karl Murex is hailing people from a vast distance in his name. So, the techne of the dyers requires your soul, your tabula rasa, to wick up these colors and these impressions and your associative principle to the colors. And so from a very young age, the bubble gum of Galinda has had a buoyancy, a levity, uplifting happiness, a positivity to it. And then the darkness of the witch has always had kind of a mocking, oppressive, negative darkness to it. However, the wick of what is wicked is fundamentally at the bedrock of the difference between good and evil. In Greek, the word for good means straight, and the word for evil means windy or wicked. Wicked. Furthermore, these characters are impressing onto the youth the likelihood, the programming, the insinuation. The insinuation is wicked up into supple young minds. However, the ed on the end of the word wicked is where the serpent biparius, this is the split tongue associative dynamic. The masculine mind hears wick ed, and they will absorb the implication of erectile dysfunction. ED is the official abbreviation for erectile dysfunction, but the female mind hears something totally different. There's no reason for them to even think of that because they don't identify with erectile dysfunction generally. For the female mind, it's eating disorder. ED in the female circles of linguistics, they hear eating disorder when they hear ED. So the male mind wicks up erectile dysfunction. The female mind wicks up eating disorder. But what's really gross is that as soon as the film had all the success, the actresses start to wane. they start to dwindle. They become transparent, much like the Green Man's X-ray, that you can see through him. You can see through these actresses. There's a transparency to them that they probably got paid really well, so they've been on some benders, some liquid diet for quite a while after the success of the film. I just wanted to put that into correspondence around Wicked and the sympathetic extrapolations that the public does in the subliminal. And what's wild is I had already rearranged the board before I went to see Wicked. I had already put the board in this order. And sure enough, at the culminating scene, this exact arrangement right here is taking place at the culmination. And I had already put these cards in this position before I went to see the film. It is really fascinating. So, Alphaba is with Galinda, and they are going up into the tower of the Wizard of Oz, and Alphaba is being vilified. She's being made a criminal, and she breaks out of the roof of the tower and summons all of the bird flu monkeys, the monkeypox bird flu that she has sired. She has sired the monkey army under her voice, to her words. They obey her now. And so I'm actually gonna call it here. I might go more in depth in a future episode regarding Alphaba. Essentially, this card was all of the plebes in the school at Shiz University. This was the uniform that all the plebes, all the numbered kids were wearing. And the only people who stood out uniquely were Galinda and Alphaba. They were the only ones out of uniform. And so the blue uniform was all the plebes and all the numbered masses. But in the end, Alphaba does this magic spell from reading from that forbidden text. And she turns all the monkeys, who are also wearing the same uniform as all the kids from the school, she bends them to her will, and they answer to her now. And so then the army of drones and bird flu goes flying over the realm, all deeply correspondent, double correspondent to the shape of Hercules, which is the new hero. The drone is the new hero. Just like I've been saying, that's kind of my thing with Joe Rogan, is he's so milquetoast. He never really makes a stink, makes a fuss, takes a stand. He's just like, oh, it is what you make of it, man. He just doesn't have a spine. For a tough guy, he just does not really have a spine. And he just lets anybody and everybody come on in. Very, very illustrious. Very, very illustrious. So yeah, the drone ego of the new hero being the drones, and people actually thinking that these machines in the heavens are here for our benefit. This is the great tit in the sky that the government's gonna just take care of everything. Go back to sleep, y'all. Nothing to see here. All right. Pretty sure that was everything. I got through the amendments. Next, I'm going to really lean into the territories. I'm going to do a full breakdown on my next episode, really digging into the territories and fortifying the claims of the correspondence through the 22 cards around the United States. I think it's going to become increasingly important, and I just want to put my slick dissident original logismoi on the map, literally. All right, y'all. Big love and respect. Slickdissident.com. Come check it out. I got the hoodies and the zippos and the tarot cards and all the goodies. All right. Love and respect.